What is going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today when I talk to you about SoFi, I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what really prompted today's shit show and where it might be heading next. Before we get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. Starting off, SoFi did go down 5.04%. After hours, it is flat. But Amazon just unveiled their earnings, and as far as I'm aware, so far, it is a double miss. So both on earnings per share as well as revenue. We don't know the future guidance yet, so that should make for a very interesting day tomorrow, but we'll just have to wait and see. 49.2 million shares were traded, 38.9 is the average. These are some of the transactions that did occur on the secondary market above $100,000. So based on the bid, the ask, and the selling price, majority of which, so everything that shows as a bid, was a sell. You saw this roughly during power hour, so that's what gave it a nice little boost up higher. But aside from that, a ton of selling, and a lot of this was actually prompted because of data that came out first thing. So initial jobless claims, 249 versus 236. So that's not necessarily the best. And when I did my pre-market video, I kind of said the market's reacting as though that's good, meaning obviously we're back to wanting inverse and all that crap. But one analyst just basically said, you know what, that's not good. And essentially, the Feds are going to be too slow to cut rates, and that's just going to be detrimental to kind of the stock market. And so despite Powell even yesterday saying that they're not even considering a 50 basis point cut, this has jumped from roughly 7 to 26.5%. So this is the likelihood of a 50 basis point cut. And as I've stated in the past, there's different ways how this can be interpreted. So you can cut rates because you are trying to combat against or that you defeat I guess, inflation, if that makes sense, or if you're cutting to avoid a recession. Avoiding a recession is definitely very scary, and this is where, because of a lot of companies and their earnings, it is showing some signs of slowing. So this is where the broader market just is saying, fuck you, I want rate cuts. Pardon my French on that note. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. The day after Powell said that they're not going to be looking at 50 basis points, this market this seems to be going up. Right now, a 73.5% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut, and all this is for the September 18th meeting. Another weird thing that did happen today, on a side note, there was no news for SoFi, as you can kind of see. But one thing that was very weird, so for those of you that don't know, I have multiple different YouTube channels, each with their own kind of niche EVs and whatever, but there was a lot of stocks that are heavily shorted, but across the board, shorts returned. So not necessarily just with SoFi, but pretty much every stock out there, shorts were returning. So kind of signaling that today was an overreaction. Once again, you could take that for face value, or maybe they're just mitigating risk, because it is fair to assume as well that large entities aren't necessarily just shorting SoFi, they're shorting a lot of different stocks. So maybe they're just trying to mitigate risk. Again, that could be one cause, but today's shorts did return net 600,000 shares. 16.79% of the free floats being shorted works out to be 175.6 million shares overall are being shorted. Utilization 55.32, short score 71.89, and then cost to borrow average is 0.55. And then once again, you see this good old cost to borrow minimum being negative, meaning there is a broker out there physically paying people to short SoFi. So you see a lot of signs of manipulation and all the other fun jazz. One thing as far as analysts, I just wanted to give you guys a quick overview of. So we already do know pretty much all this crap from the day prior, but there was this that came out today, a $12 buy rating. Mizuho, Dan, who has a 50% success rating, so essentially just flipping a coin. But it's kind of weird. I brought this up. It doesn't matter about bullish ratings when it comes to SoFi. Nobody cares. It just gets brushed under the rug. If someone gives a $4 or $3 or whatever a crappy rating, then that's when you have to pay attention to ratings as per Wall Street. So it's just another sign that SoFi is a very damaged stock, not a damaged company, as I've pointed out in the past, but it is very discouraging nonetheless. But moving on though, looking at options. So 5.39 million in calls, 1.8 million in puts. Sentiment wise, 51% of all the options being done so far today are are bearish, as you can kind of see based off of that. There's one massive candle right here, just in that 5 minutes between 11 and 11:05, there was $237,000. So a lot of money is getting into SoFi, but Of the call options that are being purchased, you do see a consensus for it to be roughly between that 750 or 8. And then looking at puts, kind of sub 7. This is the current open interest. So we already do know when it comes to Fridays and these kind of strike prices, manipulation kind of shortly follows. So right now there's 23,000 at that 7, so I wouldn't put it past shorts to try to suppress SoFi below $7 come tomorrow. You do have 42,000 at the 750 and 106,000 at the 8. So this is why, in my opinion, I've kind of pointed out in the past, it is very strategic. Every time SoFi or another stock that you do like goes up, sometimes it's good to kind of sell some puts, sell some calls, kind of different opposite directions. And so yeah, I'm kind of interested to see what you guys have been doing. I really like the fact that a lot of you guys seem to have tried options. I get it. Some of you might lose money initially, but the experience that you guys are going to get is worth more than anything. It might not seem like it right now, but eventually you will come to a epiphany, like, hey, this is how it works. And that actually is what happened to me after trying options a little bit, getting discouraged, not really understanding it. But I did have that epiphany. It's like, hey, like, it's not that hard. Yeah, you just have to, in my opinion, again, you guys do whatever the hell you guys want, but there's a fine line between gambling and doing it intelligently based on technicals, macro events. And once you kind of distinguish the two, things are cake. So that's just my opinion. Again, you guys do whatever floats your boat. And I'll do a dedicated video to SoFi on options. I already did one for Lucid. I've kind of shared that video a couple of times with some individuals, but I'll do some specific SoFi ones because it's investing in SoFi through options is a little bit different. But still, aside from that though, right now with it at $7.16, it is trading between this S1 and the pivot. So 725 is that next strong resistance / target. Very wide gaps. So the next strong support is $6.52. So that isn't necessarily the best. Of course, it kind of pulling back to the sixes isn't what people want to hear. But that's unfortunately that. I'm also looking at the 1-day chart as well. So this is very strong support and resistance points. But aside from all of that though, on the actual chart, it is still higher percentile of the Bollinger Band. It was kind of transitioning slowly to the lower, might be done tomorrow. Plus it does have that 100-day moving average right here, and then that 50 at that 690. So again, those are kind of some strong support points in theory that you should kind of watch for. Aside from that though, you do see stochastic at roughly 50, so still neutral, not really overbought nor oversold, but you do see a very bearish deviation. A number of retail investors have been saying goodbye, I'm out, peace out, rest in peace, or whatever the hell floats your boat. So yeah, a lot of retail has been selling. So yeah, not the best chain of events that's been happening. So let me know your thoughts on SoFi. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? And again, if you're one of those individuals have been trying to learn options, which strike price did you pick and what expiry date? And so what's your kind of thoughts on that? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. And with all that, appreciate all of you watching.